Well, let's go ahead and get started if you guys are ready. So good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's roundtable discussion on how to fit learning into clinical workflows to improve care and efficiency. My name is Chance, and I'm going to be the moderator for this session. Before we dive in, I want to set the stage for our conversation today. Healthcare is undergoing this fundamental transformation, and we're seeing this evolving patient set of needs that are forcing providers to adapt to technology at unprecedented speeds. There are different models coming out, different hybrid healthcare models, and they're rapidly becoming the norm, especially post-pandemic. Where a few key statistics, retail health clinics, they're experiencing some significant growth, and approximately 1/3 of American adults use these services in 2024. And then meanwhile, there's this increasing cost of medical liability, and malpractice premiums actually increased by about 68% in the most recent years. And while all of these changes are happening, healthcare tech is advancing at this breakneck speed. And all of these changes are forcing or resulting in these innovative mobile health solutions, different types of wearables, telemedicine, and generative AI, and other forms of AI. And they're creating opportunities and challenges. And at the heart of these challenges is that more than 40% of healthcare leaders report that their training for their staff is their top challenge. And only about half of all healthcare workers possess even basic AI awareness. And that kind of brings us to our focus of our discussion today. We recognize that medical professionals and hospital staff are struggling to keep pace with all of these changes. And some of the information that we're seeing is that information overload, and there is a difficulty in adapting to modern technology, and clinicians are being bombarded with like new studies and new innovative therapies and new research and new clinical trials and new data. And there's this stark reality that clinicians are juggling a lot of these concepts and topics more than ever. They're trying to balance the changes in the digital world while providing top-tier patient care. And when clinicians struggle with solutions, it delays patient care and it postpones critical decisions. A recent Gartner research study came out, and they confirmed that about 42% of healthcare organizations identify training on new tools as being their biggest challenge, thus the need to improve training. And that's why we're here today. Today, we have come together to address some of these unique pressures, and we're going to look at some fundamental challenges. One of them is addressing information gaps. We're going to take a look at improving the training and knowledge delivery process. And then we're going to also take a look at how the improvement of training translates to better patient care. Our goal today is to show you how effective training and solutions can drive both clinical confidence and business outcomes and this rapidly evolving landscape. And so without further ado, we want to go through our distinguished panel of experts. Like I said, my name is Chance. I'm going to be your moderator for today. I've been a nurse for 10 years. I've spent the last 7 in education and education technology. I specialize in generative AI and automation solutions. I'm a nursing educator with a focus specifically on neurocognition and especially in technology-mediated environments. And I focus my research in adult learning theories in a digital world. And I'm going to introduce each one of our panelists. Lice.
Agents. Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Chance. Well, I'm Lais. I work at Pharma. I have a background in technology and with about 9 years in advertisement company. And for the past 6 years, I've been fully immersed in the pharmaceutical industry. I work now at Pharma. It's a Brazilian pharmaceutical company operating in 24 countries, and mainly across Latin America. And recently we have expanded to US and Mozambique and also Angola. And I joined Pharma with a clear mission to bring and drive digital transformation across our markets. And here the idea is talking about the learning and how we are working with the healthcare professionals and rethinking how we connect with them and going far beyond the traditional face-to-face approach.
Well, thank you. Next, we have Janine.
Hi, good day. I'm Janine Hoffman. I am from Clinicomp International. We are an EHR hospital ambulatory environment company. We also produce interface products. My background is as a nurse for many years and an instructional designer. I started in the hospice home health hospital industry, got in after about 10 years into the medical software environments, and did almost every kind of job you could do from sales and implementation, and really understand the struggles of the consumers. I've worked for both software companies and the vendor side, so bopping back and forth, and as a consultant to help people through those struggles. And as the director of customer learning and development at Clinicomp, my drive is to really take all that learning and experience as a nurse and as an educator and help our customers achieve success and connect the dots with our organizational goals and make them real, make them real time and effective so that they have faith in our organization and the product that they've purchased.
Well, thank you for that. And Alan?
Hey, everybody. I'm Alan Partridge. I am the Director of Digital Learning Evangelism at Adobe, which is a crazy, wild title, which essentially means that I serve a role as a kind of hub in the middle, handling everything from research to communications between the various groups at Adobe, all of which are focused on education and learning. I often describe myself as a Wyoming cowboy and an e-learning rebel. And that description is apt. I am curious by nature and have invested the better part of my life toward learning about educational technology and communicating that out to the world. I obviously, through my work, do a tremendous amount of work with educators and trainers, and we focus on things related to learning management, learning architecture specifically. I've worked with a variety of trainers and educators across various industries. Healthcare is one of those, so I'm fortunate enough to get to meet with a lot of healthcare professionals and try to understand what the latest landscape is. And I'm particularly looking forward to today's conversation. Thanks, Chance.
All right. So I think we're going to start with some generic questions for all three of you. And these are about trends within the learning healthcare space. So let's start kind of with the first question. What key forces are driving the transformation in the healthcare manufacturing or industry today? And I'm going to leave it up for whoever wants to go first.
I don't mind jumping in.
Oh, perfect.
Oh, go ahead. Okay. So I would say, one of the things that I have made note of is that there are some parallels to what's happening in healthcare and to what's happening elsewhere in training and development. But there are also some things that really seem to differentiate in the healthcare space. So Adobe's been particularly focused on blended learning solutions that allow for sort of the entire historic chest of tools that allow us to offer training and sort of streamlining those things. So everything from live interaction-based learning, smoothing that process, doing things like developing QR codes to automate the process of charge nurses giving snap updates on the floor and make it possible to track things that are really difficult to track inside of institutions, to things like introducing AI technologies. but always in support of the specific tasks, right? So we're always focused in on this question of what are the challenges that people are actually facing in their day-to-day work environment, and how can we better facilitate or accelerate their ability to do the tasks that they need to do. And those have been true universally. Sort of some broad trends. We've seen a really heavy kind of increase in the desire to have commercial branding and marketing embeds and things like that. We've seen lots of trends moving toward learning academies for customers, even in the healthcare industry, where people are more and more interested in educating the actual patients to improve patient outcomes, that kind of thing. And so providing sort of modern online applications and solutions for education and training, all of those have been a part of a growing movement. And you can sum it all up pretty much by saying, make it super, super easy to develop and put out these materials, and make it super easy to track and understand in a meaningful way what's going on inside of the space. Improve those workflows, and that's been our focus.
Awesome. Janine or Lice, any thoughts on key forces driving transformation?
Sure. I'm happy to. Did you want to go lights first?
Yeah, sure. I would like to include in complement part of what Alan said, but I could highlight, I think, 5 different key points using as the perspective what we have nowadays in our day by day here in Europharma. But I think the digital health and AI are reshaping how we deliver and monitor care. We can do any kind of roundtable nowadays without talking about AI. And also the telemedicine, AI-driven platforms are now essential. And one of the focus we have also is looking for different kinds of looking to health. So for example, digital therapeutics, using tools and apps that can complement or even replace the traditional treatments. So also one of our focus. And talking about this, we are saying we're talking about new stuff, right? So with the face of regulatory changes, it's important to have the agility and compliance, and it's no longer something optional, right? And complement to that, I think many industries are talking about put the client in the center. For us, the client is our patient. So in healthcare, this means focus not only in the disease, but in the health. This is a mindset change, I think, because we are not only thinking about the patient when he comes to us looking for some treatment. We want him to be safe, to prevent the disease even before they need us. So I think this is some part of the change we are bring here nowadays.
Awesome. Janine?
Yeah, I have 4 that are similar to what Lice and Alan have brought up. In healthcare environments, whether it's provider or ambulatory or a hospital, it's rising uncontrolled costs, particularly with products, software products. You get nickeled and dimed to death about every part of the service, and you really can't forecast the supply chain concerns, whether it was through COVID or continuing, not again able to forecast what those costs are going to be. And a sustainable workforce. We know that our products serve both nurses and providers, and in even home health, like health aides. So big span of different education levels, different job roles. And that workforce is sort of under threat and is an aging workforce who have been put through it all. And then, of course, cybersecurity and those threats that have some uncontrolled costs, as well as new types of products like AI, which are challenging a workforce that is trying to integrate all of those other issues that, and I'll use the word threaten because it really does threaten not just an organization, but, individuals feel very under assault as well on a daily basis. And so I'm being sensitive to that. So what does Clinicomp do to address these forces? There's lots of discussion we can have, but when you look at, how we integrate learning and implementation, it's not a side product. It is part of our system as a service approach. So we look at our products as, all inclusive. Learning and implementation is not an add-on. It's not outsourced. So when you get a price from us, it is a controlled cost. You can forecast. We include our software and our hardware, our training and implementation, our ongoing monitoring, and helping you optimize in that cost so that your supply chain issues for that software and our hardware are known, right? Our staff in implementation, my staff in education and product development for education, we have nursing backgrounds, we have healthcare and provider backgrounds, we even have billing backgrounds. So we understand that workforce. We are that workforce, and we have over 40 years of secure system. We have not had cybersecurity issues. So, on all of those areas that are, real threats to these organizations struggling every day, we have addressed those internally, and we are there to mitigate those issues with our customers.
Awesome. I'm gonna add a different flavor to this, specifically kind of in the context of learning. And the thing I like to, in my research, the thing that I always keep in mind is that the high school senior walking across the stage in these next couple of weeks, when they walk onto the college campus in the fall, they will have never lived a life where an iPhone didn't exist. So this idea that they have been brought up in the immediacy of information, at it being delivered to their fingertips in a matter of milliseconds, has reshaped how they view the world. And some of the I'm going to say antiquated ideologies surrounding learning and education can often, we need to re-examine those and to make sure that we are considering in all of our training and learning opportunities, are we taking into account the digital native, and are we giving them are we making sure that we're meeting their needs, even though we're trying to work through like workforce development? How are we making sure that they're adequately prepared for the job, but doing it through the lens in which they view the world? Moving on to the next question. That's awesome. Those are awesome responses. So with evolving patient needs and healthcare digitization, what learning approaches are you adopting for your healthcare professionals? So let's start with, I'm going to call on people now. We're going to mix it up. Let's go with Lice.
Okay. Well, we prioritize lifelong learning. Healthcare professionals just only finish their course, and that's okay. It happens with all kinds of professionals. We must keep studying, right? So many patients now, when they arrive to a medical appointment, they already have the internet-based diagnosis. They already know what they have. They almost get to the clinical and ask for the doctor for, I need that medicine, because they suppose they think they know what they have. So the physicians need to be in front of that. They need fast, accurate information to respond with confidence to that, right? And here we are focusing micro-learning because physicians and healthcare professionals in general don't have enough time, right? So it must be something fast, mobile-first content, and just-in-time education that fits the routine. It must be something you can do in your day-by-day life, right? And to ensure credibility and engagement, sometimes we bring some key opinion leaders. So, for example, if I have a new molecule that we are launching a product here, and we look for a key opinion leader that knows a lot about it. It's someone that is well known in the physicians, and he presents something. He gave a class about it, for example. And beside of that, we also have some different kind of tools. So, for example, we launched a month ago a portal, and we have AR-powered search for clinical protocols database, and also we have a tool for 3D anatomic models. So the idea is to understand what are the needs of the physicians and healthcare professionals, and select different kind of tools that each of them will prefer, because each one of them are different, right? They prefer to study in different ways. And personalizing is one of our focus also. So we have content different for different language, so for Spanish and Portuguese in this case, and different formats to reflect the diversity of our audience. So I think this is the direction we have here.
Awesome. Janine.
So there's a lot of similar themes here. I think that, we have a wider audience with our products. We have everything from a nurse aide who might have a high school diploma, right, to physicians and pharmacists who have MDs, or PhDs or both, right, and everything in between. In those environments, I think just like every good educator or humanist or clinician, you start with assessing, what's going on there, right? What's going on with that organization? Is this a union kind of environment where the training can only happen during work hours? You really have to know your audience, right? Is this a situation where, what percentage are staff that are moving in the organization? Are they bringing people from a different country with different languages? You fill those slots, and that happens quite a lot. Is it a government organization where they can mandate things differently? So the approach and the product offerings have to be very flexible and variable. So we talked about, bite-sized micro learning, which include we have to scale and make it easy and visual. Even in our product development, we have to embed little bits of learning and direction on the screen and make sure there's consistency in that, because that is, you're building on that learning, right? So if I know how to do it here, I'll know how to do it there. And making sure that your learning is supplementing what you already have. So you're building on that constantly, right? A lot of learning tends to be, when you look in the industry, press this button, press this button, press this button. People know how to press a button. What they don't know is why I need to press the button, when I need to press the button, and what's the fastest way to get this thing done, the thing that I need to do. I don't want to go 20 minutes into a video, or even 3 minutes into the video to get to 2.50 time. I want to know right now what it is I need to know, and respecting their time, respecting what's going on in their environment by having, done that. All of this is, of course, evidence-based, but it is sensitive to the needs of that particular audience, and scales to that. So we offer all kinds of products, instructor-led, standalone, independent, in-person, formal, informal, every type of product you can consider, we have considering to include. We also are very pro-active learning, and with all of those products in their particular, say it's a unit in a hospital, they will have their own unit for training. So it's a very low risk. So you have people who are already amped up. They're always, going to and fro. They need a very safe place to learn and practice what they've learned, so that they can keep layering that learning, and give them that opportunity for hands-on instruction. So, Adobe as a partner in this really, it helps us scale with that. And so that's very similar kinds of themes here again with us.
Awesome.
I love the. Oh, I'm sorry. I just guessed you were going to call on me, Chance, but you were going to go on.
I want to throw a little different flavor with your response, possibly that question, and then also to the point, what does Adobe see with their healthcare customers?
It's a great question, and obviously we see the things that Janine and Elias are talking about. We also see other extended needs and requests that are quite specific to the healthcare industry. there are a couple things that are universally true, right? So in terms of andragogy, in terms of adult learning, it is always going to be true that people are naturally curious until you force them to do things. And so there are these tremendous opportunities for engagement, but in this industry specifically, there are some really strong factors that you don't necessarily see in other industries, right? So the immediate ease and accessibility of information and the dependability, the reliability on that information are really critical key factors. You know, like other industries, learning in the flow of work and the flow of the experience, even in terms of someone who's maybe taking diabetes education as a patient, or any of those kinds of patient care training solutions, you have similar desire for high levels of engagement that encourage higher levels of knowledge transfer, but you have here an obligation to patient health first and foremost, right? And so there are these other considerations that become really important here, that the voice of the provider be clearly defined and understood, that there be a sense of reliability in the training information, and as Janine put it so correctly, that there be this real immediacy in many cases, because sometimes there's simply not time. And so one of the reasons that healthcare pros often turn to procedural documentation is because of the ease of getting to the exact information of the process that they think that they are headed for. Now, as we get AI introduced into this space, that should allow healthcare pros to get closer and closer to that immediate awareness, especially when there are these sort of unknowns. And if you think about that in terms of diagnostics. But one thing to consider here is that this is one of the reasons you're hearing our answers are kind of all over, is likely because it's an all of the above. You need hands-on training in order to handle things that are practice oriented or that are directly relative to the processes in an organization for delivery of care. You need opportunities for people to experiment and explore, in those cases, simulations and things like that. All things that we know have high rates of knowledge transfer. And so we're in a position of trying to provide really comprehensive tools. And that's where we've been focused. Unlike a lot of the other industry places, and I don't want to get too much into product, but I mean, unlike the other folks you're going to find, we don't just focus on modern, high engagement, online only kind of solutions. We don't just focus on blended learning, face-to-face, that kind of thing, or we don't just focus on skill demonstration-based form completions and validations. We focus on everything. And there's a very strong reason for that, especially here in the healthcare industry, where you need to be able to have accurate, comprehensive tracking, where you need to be able to do modern, advanced AI-assisted diagnostics and other kinds of solutions. And you need ultimately to have a clear choice. As Janine mentioned, having options that are really critically important to people so that they can take the right kind of training at the right moment in the right modality or format.
Perfect. Can you, Alan, can you give us, because I heard you say this, and I say recently, in the past several years have fallen down this rabbit hole, but can you give us like an elevator pitch of what andragogy is?
Oh yeah, sure. It's just, the short term is andragogy is adult education, sort of the complement to pedagogy, right? So you're talking about the processes or practice, the theoretical underpinnings of the approach to education, right? So when we talk about andragogy, we're talking about how does the approach to education differ for adults than it does to, for example, small children. It's a very appropriate term in the healthcare and pharma and medical professions, because you're talking about folks who are generally very highly professional, very highly trained, very highly motivated. So we know that, for example, in many cases, we'll look at engagement tactics, gamification, that kind of thing, and they're fun for everybody. Everybody loves them, even people in health and pharma. But people in health and pharma have an intrinsic sense of responsibility, which will push them to take these kind of educational experiences more seriously, to study harder. They also have a long tradition in many cases. Many are medical doctors and nurses and so on. So they're used to the idea of study and memorization. So all those factors sort of come into play and give you some differentiation. If you're really interested in andragogy, lots of great programs out there online and offline where you can go and study and learn all about the various philosophies and theories and those kind of things.
Yeah, that's something that I was always fascinated with. Always been trying to understand why things happen, especially like children are subject focused, taught by the teacher because they're the arbiters of knowledge. But when it comes to adults, like we want to solve problems, we want to solve relevant problems. So you said it, and I was like, this is kind of like my passion project, and so like I spend a lot of time kind of trying to understand why people do what they do. So let's take a quick look. I don't know if I could see the poll results yet. I don't know if I can.
You may have to submit your own answer. Just
let's see.
In an answer, and then it should give you the
interesting
results.
I cannot see it.
Uh-oh.
All right. Well, while we're working out that technical issue, let's.
I can tell you that the number one question: how mature is your organization's learning strategy for external training? That one, the most popular answer at 50% was somewhat mature. So people fell in we're not completely oblivious, but we're certainly not all the way to a very mature kind of level. And then the secondary question, Priyanka, she's got that. Awesome. She's a rock star producer. Thanks, by the way, to our producer, Priyanka, who keeps us all on track. Go ahead, Chance.
It kind of goes back to kind of that general part where, almost half are not really familiar with, some of the new advances in technology. So it's not surprising. I see that pretty much every day that there's and it's interesting that we talk about training in education because you talk about some of the roles specific to different healthcare like disciplines, and they're intrinsically motivated. Like they always want to do good, but like, how do you provide specific training? And this is kind of, it's a rhetorical question, but how would you, something to consider is how you provide training that is mandatory that people either feel like is not worth it. And to your point where you use like gamification, well, let's kind of lend into those dopaminergic pathways. Like let's give them a reward-based system so it feels like less work and more play. So, all right, I want to shift gears a little bit. We're going to switch over, focusing on Europharma. And let's see. So, Lice, I have a few questions for you, if you are ready. So let's start with, do you have any examples within your organization where you've created like digital learning tools for those healthcare professionals?
Yes, sure, Chance. Well, I talked a little bit about the portal, the global portal we launched last month. It's like a digital hub for healthcares with access to a specific content like tools and resources. And we have all the, for example, webinars that I told with the KOL sessions. We run this inside the platform, and we also have different kind of courses, micro-learning, etc. The idea is to have like a single place. Alan, could you please just your microphone? I think it's open. I'm hearing your time.
You got it.
Sorry. Thank you. Well, the idea of the portal is where we have just one single place where every kind of healthcare professional we are involved, we have any kind of relation, can connect to us across the portal. So this is, the launch was a month ago, so it's a pilot. We have not so much yet registered on the portal, but this is a project for life. Now, this is a new product for Europharma. and we are bringing the healthcare professionals to know the tool. So we already have some courses, different kind, and also we have some tools. So for example, digital library where they can search for articles, they can type any kind of disease, for example, they want to find an article, or they can, for example, look for clinical quick reference tools where they can find very easy and simple treatments, protocols, and procedures to optimize the point of care use. It's usually very focused on emergency care because it's common, for example, for the new ones who are working in the emergency, don't know exactly all the protocols, so they can access and in 5 minutes receive the answer and how to proceed. We also have, this is really nice, the clinical case simulation tool, where we have different cases, usually for residents, where they can training with a virtual person. And we have different cases for different situations where they can try to interact with the person. And can I show my screen? I think it'd be easier to explain a little more about the functionalities.
Go ahead.
I did like a video looking for the tool and make like a navigation through here. So this is the digital library. As I told, the person can look, the physician can find the articles and the journals, or also they can type any kind of search. Sorry that this is in Spanish, but I think you can understand the context. So this is just a test, for example, diabetes, and you are being redirected to a page where you can look for different articles, and you can download this, you can read, you can make any kind of search on that. Also, we have, let me just show here some examples, and you go back to the page and show you another tool that I started talking about. This is the anatomic 3D. This is a really nice tool. It's inside the portal, and there are over 1,000 interactive 3D images, and you can look for different information like treatments, disease. All of these images are 3Ds, so you can use also during the clinical practice, which can help also the patients sometimes understand what they have, for example.
Very cool.
Yeah, this is really nice because you can use for learning, but also with your patient to make it clear when you are talking about something specific. This is a partnership we did with BioDigital, which is a company. And here I'm showing where we can get with that. We can show exactly some kind of example disease. You can select and draw on the video. This is really nice too. Let me show you here. So you can draw something, you can select something and make it really clear doing the practice, the clinical practice. So this is really nice. We also have another tool where I told you can have quick reference informations. So, for example, treatments, protocols, or procedures. You have a lot of items. I'm going really fast here because I know it doesn't have all the time for that, but this is really nice. You can search for any kind of information. Some of them also have videos, also in English, Spanish, and other languages sometimes. And you can look for specialties too and make some kind of filter. We also have here, I was started saying about it, but let me show that it's really nice. It's a clinical case simulation tool. So we have different kind of things. This is really nice for mainly for residents, and they can like simulate some kind of clinical case. So they interact with the patient. There are some items we can select in the screen and like ask something to the patient. And here we have, for example, the aid, the professional, old prescriptions that he already have from older clinical he passed through, and also some exams. So this is really nice. You can understand the clinical condition. And then you have some, for example, you need to understand, this is the questions you could do. And here I'm asking him if he has some kind of medication already, if he consuming something. And he showed me the prescription. The idea here is for the resident to train before start the clinical, the day-by-day physician life. And he's like a training in how would be this kind of consult. So it's really nice. You can hear without the sound, but you can hear the sound of the heart. This is really nice. And the idea with this platform is we can not only bring information for learning, but also to help in the clinical practice. This is something we're bringing to the tool, to the portal. And the idea also is having an A-Power anamnesis transcription assistant. This is under development, so I will not show you today. But this is also something that will be available in the platform. And our vision is to make the platform a space not only for study, but also to support everyday clinical practice. So this is a little bit about what we are doing here.
Awesome. Those are some really cool tools. I'm a huge fan of those kind of things. Real quick, I want to ask you one more quick question, and then I know we have a few for Janine. So in terms of like capabilities and digital learning tools, which ones do you think are most important for your healthcare professionals when it comes to learning?
Well, I believe the most important capabilities are the speed, the relevance, and usability. That was what we are trying to bring you with this portal. They need to find the right information. It should be fast, especially when they are in the clinical decision making, right? They need to have something fast in there. That's why the tool must be intuitive, mobile friendly, and designed for real user. We are prioritizing scientific credibility, so that's why we bring some partners, articles, and things that the physician can look for and make sure it's not information from Europharma, for example. This is information there are scientific credibility in that. And also the personalization. So we need to think that the HCPs, they expect content doing for them. They should be tailored to their specialty, their region, because we are talking about 24 countries. So the relevance changes, and also the products we have as a pharmaceutical also change. So the relevance will be different for each of them. And the portal is all segmented, thinking about it. It's not only for physicians, but for nurses, for pharmaceuticals, etc. In short, I think learning tools must feel like support and not an extra task. It should help. They should integrate naturally into their daily workflow. It's not something they need to learn how to do and then learn how to practice his clinical medicine. So this is our focus.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's shift gears a little bit. And Janine, I have a few questions for you and Clinicomp. Feel free to interweave anything that's you find relevant to about sharing about Clinicomp while we answer these questions. So in terms of usage and adoption, how do you think learning influences the adoption of your platform specifically?
Okay. That's a great question. I do want to weave a little bit of what Lai said. I wish I could show you our resource center and our transition to more Adobe products. But the content is proprietary, so I really can't. So our resource center is integrated into our product currently, and we're moving to some additional Adobe products that allow it to be access from without securely as well, and to move to an opportunity for management to the consumers management to see what their consumers achieved directly without necessarily having to go through us, as well as to sign up for virtual or in-person classes, and for us to see what products were especially interesting to them. Currently, we have context-based products. So if they happen to be in an area of the product that is a biometric interface, they can see details or very specific information on that without having to search necessarily for that. And so we're trying to leverage our knowledge of decades of doing that with some newer products. So I'm pretty excited about that. So I think you really can't have adoption without adequate learning. And to me, as I kind of implied, and I'll kind of backtrack to give you a little bit of funny, I think the two best jobs I've had in my life were being a cocktail waitress and a hospice nurse. Okay. So, and both of them involve coming to the situation, like thinking Maslow's hierarchy of needs, who is this person? Where are they in their, themselves? What do they need? What do they want right now? And being present right now in every situation, not assuming my thoughts on them, right? And what am I trying to impose on this situation, right? So I'm trying to teach something, but I can't teach something until I know where they are at. I'm doing an assessment of their needs. So every good educator comes at this assessing needs. So if you're listening to your customers' needs, right, and providing these varied different products because your goal is a pain-free implementation and ultimately sustainment, and you understand their particular drivers, right? You understand the situations that are there, and you're applying all this, whether it's learning or humanistic theory at the same time while looking natural doing it. And your business model is system as a service. You naturally have a feedback loop, right? So having done all these jobs myself, I can tell you, I go in pretending to be implementation staff and not the director of a department, so I can incognito see what's going on. I do that. We go in and we make learning a part of the product at intervals, not just at the initial implementation, but we are going in later to layer that learning. But it also gives us an opportunity to see not just did they learn the software, did they implement this right? Are they using it right? We look behind the scenes at the content. What level of learning? What is the proof of this learning? It's not enough to pass a test. It's more important to look at the utilization. You are building this level of trust, and not just by that one initial success, but all of these continued optimizations, continue to build relationship, to continue to build knowledge. And this allows customers to ask more questions as they are comfortable with their knowledge. And it also allows us to introduce new products to them that they didn't think they needed before. And in our own resource center or that, learning management system, you can have products in there that they didn't purchase, but they can start learning about. And this gives them a non-salesy way. This just happens to be in there because this is where we load all our information. It gives them these non-intrusive ways of learning about a product. And you have this implementation approach that integrates learning, but also, it has them want more product later. And it's all included. It's that soft marketing. So I look at education as an initial opportunity, ongoing opportunity, and a business growth opportunity all at once. Does that help answer your questions?
It does. It does. I'm going to ask a kind of a similar question that I asked Lice. In terms of what's important for the healthcare professionals, what capabilities do you think are important to learning from your specific digital tools?
Was that for me? I'm sorry.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
it was along the same question. But specifically to Clinicomp, like what capabilities do you think are important when they're using your tool specifically?
Okay. Well, I think it has to do with, again, reiterating the flexibilities, right? It has to be extremely brief, um, depending on the situation. Again, it has to, you know, different opportunities. We have thresholds. So there's certain types of learning products we expect the site to engage with, whether they implement them independent of us, so we train the trainer, or we can be the trainer. Um, and when they have a threshold of have participated in that, then we offer other levels of products that are higher touch, right? So if we say that 80 or 90% of folks have utilized X learning products, we can then have these other products where we can go on site live and do X with them. And these are nice drivers to get people to utilize those products in those ways. From a learning perspective, over the shoulder may sound really expensive, to our competitors. Like I said, with the methodology of looking forward, for the next quarter, the next quarter, and the next quarter about pre-sales or optimization, we're also looking at, fishbowl training, so if you're on a unit and most of your staff know what they're doing, they can now show each other that they're doing, so they're getting a higher level learning, right? And for anybody who might be lagging behind, they see their safety net right there. They see all their opportunities to have other learners. So we're using, multiple means, being flexible, offering all kinds of products while maintaining continuity, having all of these products, constantly available. They're all based on evidence-based approaches for learning, and just, really good business rules from my perspective. So does that help answer?
It does. It does. Thank you. So I want to kind of ask you all one general question, kind of keeping this in mind that we only have a few minutes left, and I do want to leave a couple of minutes for questions. So this is very, very as direct as we possibly can be. Thinking about the future of healthcare and technology in the digital landscape, what does future-ready learning look like in a regulated industry like healthcare? And we'll start with you, Janine, if you've got an answer. Put you on the spot.
Yeah. Well, let me see. I'm trying to find my notes. Well, I guess it would be how far in the future we intend to look, right? I do think we're going to have even more staff resource constraints and even more varied experience and even more of a need for brevity. So this kind of forces us to look at what they actually need and want. It forces us to change, just sort of like COVID forced us to be the mother of invention, right? And listen more and address needs. So ultimately, all of these ranges of needs isn't change. It'll create a better product. But I think the most important proof, and we had a little conversation amongst ourselves before, is you're talking to a group of savvy people. As technology changes, we need to prove that, say, these new fancy products are safe and effective, right? And that, why should I change to this has to be evident and provable, because I think we can pivot to whatever the needs are. But as technology is changing, we need those folks that we serve. And in my industry, that happens to be the guardians of the patient. They want to know that they can still continue to provide care. And so it's not just about learning theory, it's about how you're helping them achieve their basic goals. I think we can flex to what we need to do to teach them, but we need to prove that this is not just superfluous information.
Right. Lice. Any thoughts of what future-ready learning looks like?
Janine said really what I think. I totally agree with her. I think the future, what learning means, combining agility with compliance. We need to be fast, accurate, but we need to follow the rules that we know that our industry have a lot, right? So I think it's like delivering fast, personalized education, about a little bit about all what we have discussed here, but making sure we are compliant and working with different countries. This is a big thing for us. We need to focus and understand all the process, local validations, but make sure that we are delivering good tools for learners, the physicians and healthcare professionals, but making the day by day easier. That's the resume of that.
Awesome. Alan, the final word.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, to me, this is all very exciting. The interesting thing is that this is no small note that Janine and Liz have just focused in on, right? That ultimately the accountability for patient outcome lands on that healthcare provider, that practitioner. And the industry clearly is going to have to develop clearly defined, recognizable standards of care that ensure that, for example, AI is not simply the caregiver, that there ultimately is a knowledgeable person who's accountable for assessing and evaluating. This is no different fundamentally than what all other industries are essentially looking at in terms of their use of AI, that yes, the AI is often miraculous in terms of its ability to expedite your gathering of the information, but you still need the expert in the room to make that final assessment. The one other thing I'd offer is that, just by way of inspiration, is that the work that people have been doing in healthcare for decades now has been on the cutting edge in terms of knowledge transfer, and simulation, and other kinds of educational methodologies. I worked with a company called Navex when they were first developing their tools for simulation, which essentially provides similar things to what Liz is showing. They go one step further and have medical professionals create simulations of specific medical conditions that can then be treated with a simulated set of interventions. And then you can see in real time what's happening with the intervention outcome. And because all that can be tracked and monitored, that then provides this sort of architecture by which the supervisory chain can understand better where the trainees are and whether or not there are any risks in terms of fundamental misunderstandings of the procedures that they're actually deploying. What we're going to see with AI is the ability for AI to learn from the actual practice and implementation by providers. What are these steps that can do cost savings? What are these steps that can optimize the path to diagnostics and implementing procedures? And it's going to start to have the ability to make recommendations proactively and at the same time reverse that process in a kind of slingshot into education and training. So improvements in education and training will eventually be augmented by following the practice of what people do, which is very much the same kind of thing that Liz and Janine have talked about, evidence-based training and similar approaches. These are things that, because healthcare pros have been implementing these learning strategies, we'll now be able to help AI understand how to do them. And to me, that's the most exciting horizon.
Awesome. What I want to do in the chat, if you guys have any questions, any of the attendees have any questions for our panel, you can drop them in. We will try to get those answered just as rapidly as we can, because I know we're pretty much out of time. I did want to kind of throw in this interesting thought that I heard from a keynote speaker that I recently went to a conference about. And she was talking about, in terms of research, how it's nearly impossible to do studies right now on the effects of different types of technology in like learning spaces or even healthcare, because it's changing so fast that it's hard to be like, I mean, if you think about ChatGPT, how many different engines they have now, and how they all have different things. They're used for different things, and then you could use different large language models for different tones. Example, like if I want to write more of a conversational paper, I would probably use something more like Claude. But if I really want some more data analysis, I may go to Gemini, or maybe use one of the different engines in ChatGPT. So like they all have different use cases, but they're all, and that was something that I learned early on in the use of AI, especially, was it's hard to see if something is effective because it changes so fast. But to all of your points, it's important to make sure that we stay true to the needs of the patient, not abandon the role of the healthcare provider, and that there's a human element required to delivering that high patient care that just cannot be replicated. To your point, Alan, it's about augmenting the care and utilizing this technology to do so, and also in speeding up the process of filling in these educational gaps. So. I think I'm not seeing any questions roll in. So I think we're going to wrap it up here. Any final thoughts? All right. Well, thank you guys for attending. We appreciate everybody coming on and hanging out with us for an hour. Thank you to the panelists for being experts in your field and doing the work that you do. We do know you serve a valuable contribution to all of our patients around the world. So we appreciate you guys. But thanks a lot, and thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks,
All right.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.